Welcome everyone to the 8th episode of the YAE podcast. On this episode, I'm here with Gavin Symes, the CEO of the Foundry Group. And I can't wait to talk to him about business growth strategies, building a team, and how business has evolved over his career. Now, Gavin, I want to start off by congratulating you because I was reading earlier and you've helped with the Foundry Group, you've helped thousands of people and over 4,500 businesses create financial freedom. So that is quite incredible.
Thanks very much.
Congrats to you. So it really is an effort.
Thank you. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. So in terms of, what we do is we help business owners to scale their business. And the perfect client that I love working with is around that $1 to $2 million in revenue mark where they're stuck and they want to scale to 10 million and beyond. So it's a wild ride. I love helping people. And it's just, I'm super pumped every time I come into work every day. Like I just love it. I can't believe I get paid to do this every day, to be honest.
Yeah, you've done really well because I was reading, as you mentioned, you help 7-figure business owners, which is your ideal client, scale to 8 figures. One thing I wanted to ask, what does that process involve? Is that a certain niche that you're focusing on, or can any business come to you and say, hey, we're doing 7 figures, we want to get to 8?
So that's a really good question. What I find is that it doesn't really matter what industry the business owner is in.
Okay.
The hustle that gets them to $1 or $2 million or 7 figures won't get them to 8 figures and beyond. Okay. So what you've got to do is change the way that you're thinking about it. And rather than thinking about, I'm going to work 80-hour weeks, rather than doing that, thinking about how can I build a structure? How can I employ the right people who are going to do the work when I'm not there so that I can get out of the day-to-day of the business and focus working on the business and growing it and scaling it. So the niche in terms of the industry, it doesn't really matter. I specifically focus on just scaling up the people, the structure, and making sure that the business owner's got enough time and money to get to grow and scale their business.
Yeah, because it's obviously important, you can't continuously keep doing those 80, 100-hour work weeks. And as you mentioned, scaling out is the only way. So what does that look like for a business owner when they come to you? Does it mean that they have to take a short-term financial haircut so that they can employ more people to do their job? Or are you looking at other tactics with these clients?
So there's 3 things that any business owner needs to scale from 7 to 8 figures. The first one is people. The second one is time, and the last one is money. So on the money side of things, which is what you're talking about, there's a couple of different ways to fund that growth. One of them is through your own cash by, I wouldn't say taking a haircut, but not ripping money out of your business to spend on stupid shit to impress people that you don't care about, right? So that's probably the first thing that we stop doing and get them to reinvest that money back into the business. The other way is to either get investors externally or to fund the business through debt. So going and getting, lines of credit and facilities to enable that funding to happen. So the first thing that I look at is where's the cash going to come from to fund that growth? Is it going to be through new sales? And the majority of it, to be honest, is really through self-funding. So we find little profit leakages in the business that we plug up, that increases the cash, and then we reinvest that back into the business to grow.
Okay, when you talk about profit leakages, what does that look like in the average business that comes to you?
Yeah, so really common things that I'm seeing is the two parts. I'll talk about that. The first one is on the front end sales process. So a lot of people are really busy but not effective on sales. So they're not doing follow-ups of quotes that they've sent out to people. Okay. And, the stats are that 60% of business comes from follow-ups. Yeah. And if people aren't doing their follow-ups on their sales, they've sent a quote out there, then that means that they're missing out on a huge potential part of revenue. So that's the first process, the first thing that we look at. And then the second thing we look at is collecting debts. So notoriously or historically, business owners at that sort of 7-figure mark are really bad at collecting their debts and receivables. So they'll let them blow out to 60, 90, 100 days past due. So those are the 2 things that we look at first normally to increase cash through their own internal methods is the sales process, tightening that up and having that converting as high as possible. And of the debts that we do have, the people that owe us money, let's get that collected in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I think the first part of that you talked about, tightening up the sales process. Obviously, any business is, making money because of sales. Everything is a sale in business. Are you going on a when you talk to these companies about sales and help tighten that process? Are you going to the top of the chain, or are you working with the actual people? Let's just say it's a local store. Are you going into that store and actually teaching the staff how to get better at sales and
yeah, 100%, 100%. So it starts at the top and works the whole way down. So what I find is that there's no sales process whatsoever, and the business owner is really comfortable at winging sales themselves, and then that trickles down into the staff just winging it as well. And the employees of the team don't care about the business as much as the business owner does. They're not as passionate about it. They're not as knowledgeable about the products and services. Therefore, they can't wing it as well as what the owner can. So really the first thing on the sales side of things is that we look at is how can we formalize the process? Can we put some scripts in place and training in place? Once the top or the owner ticks off on that, then I go and train the team on how to actually, sell and how to overcome objections and all of that sort of side of things.
So as part of putting scripts in place, is that almost a way, assuming that, okay, these staff aren't always going to be super passionate, but by putting a script in place, it at least gives them some structure to follow?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of their passion about it, I always say that there's three things that you've got to have with when you're looking at people. You've got to have someone who is clear on what needs to be done. They've got to be capable. They've got to have the actual capability to do the work. And the last one is that they've got to be motivated to do it. So if you don't have those three things with that particular person, then you've either got to find them or teach that stuff to them. And if you can't get them, on board with those three things and tick all those boxes, then I like to say you need to outsource them to the competition.
Yeah. So one thing just on sales, you've obviously helped a lot of people with these processes, and I hear this question a lot too. Is or can anyone be a salesperson?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw who was it? I can't remember. I saw someone the other day and they said, they were talking about, if you've got the gift of the gab and you're a natural born salesperson. I don't think anyone's really a natural born salesperson. But I think there are people who enjoy it more and who are more extroverted than introverted who don't enjoy it as much. And where there's a will, there's a way. So I think that there are people who have the potential to be really great salespeople with some training and processes. And I think there's other people in the world who don't want to do it and don't suit it. And that's perfectly fine. Those people are better off doing, more detailed work like accounting or bookkeeping or, all of that sort of stuff. So I hope that answers your question. But really, I think you've either got the ability to learn it because you've got the desire to, or you don't at all and you don't want to.
Yeah, because for anyone that has a small business listening right now, or even a business doing 7-8 figures already, you talked about passion and putting scripts in place to kind of alleviate that. So there's some actual structure, but is putting people on commission an option as well? Is that something?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a really big part of what we do, or what I do when I go into a business, is look at what's the remuneration structures, what is the motivation, because business owners will do it for love, but employees won't. So really simple way to do that is just to put a target in place, and if they meet that, then they get X dollars. Or even just going in and saying, your base salary, if it's $50,000 a year, covers 10 sales. Anything over that, I'll give you $50, $100, $200 for. That's a really simple way to put an incentive plan in place. But I do find that they're extremely popular and also effective to increase sales and get everyone's alignment all on the same page.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So that's kind of the process you follow when you go into a business. What about when you've been with them for, 2 weeks, 4 weeks? What's the process of then actually growing the business from there?
Yeah, so that all really depends on where the business is at and what they've already done and put in place. Let's talk about one client that I've got, I'm just trying to think of which example might be best to use, but one client that I've got there, the business owner is doing all of the sales when I met them. And so we structured a process to get them off the phones and out of sales, so that they could work on building systems and processes for the back end of the business. That was successful. We were able to do that. We put a simple 3-step sales process in place. And then what we started doing was saying, right, well, what are all of the people inside of the business? What should they be doing? What are they be doing? What's even the reporting structure? Because a lot of this stuff comes into play where you've just got all of these people reporting to the business owner, and they ask questions whenever they've got a question, and no news is almost good news. So figuring out the structure, and then also the reporting mechanisms in place. So making sure that there's key performance indicators, making sure that we're getting weekly reports out. We know where our cash is at. That's sort of the foundation of it. And then looking about how can we scale that? So where do we need additional people? Where do we need additional structures? And where do we need training to make sure that as these new sales processes deliver more volume into the back end of the business, that can handle that volume without imploding, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. And to achieve that, do most of the businesses you work with have to go and get external capital?
No, I think maybe less than 20% would go and get external capital to do that. So they've either got a small funding line in place, like maybe an overdraft of say $20,000 or $50,000, or they're generating the revenue themselves and just by doing things better and more efficiently. So they're getting more cash in off the back of that.
Yeah, I really like that. And I'm actually quite surprised that it's only 20 for less than 20%. So now.
And yeah, it's funny because there's a lot of people that reach out to me and they've got, say, an idea, for instance, and they want to go and get external funding to launch that. Just last week, someone rang me up and they said, I've been operating for 24 hours. We've got really good indications that everything's going to be awesome. Can you invest inside the business? And I always ask everyone the same question when they do that. I say, if your business is at that level where it's can easily be copied or replicated, an investor is going to ask, why would I put the money into your business and trust in you? Why wouldn't I just do it myself and keep it 100%? Yeah. It's really the first thing in it. And I find that in a business relying on investment, whether they're at 7 figures, 8 figures, or even, they haven't made $1 yet, their business relying on investment is outside of their control, because investors are unpredictable. And also getting the investment takes a long time. I've been through multiple processes in my own businesses, going and getting external capital, and it takes a long time to convince other people to trust you with their money.
And what should, for anyone wanting to get investment for their business, is there things that they should ask themselves first before actually even considering it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the first thing that they've got to ask themselves is because getting investment in is an extremely expensive form of capital. And what I mean by that is you're valuing the business basically now, which still hasn't reached its full potential, and you're giving away a percentage of that, which down the track, they're going to come back and ask for, their money out or whatever else. So I think first things first is that, have I tried all of the other options available to get cash? So have I tried to invest money in it myself, grown it a little bit slower rather than just rapidly doing that? Have I looked to friends and family first to get interest in the business? Have I looked at any bank funding? So those would be the 3 things that I would look at first before going out and trying to look for an investor. And then the last one would be, if someone else is looking at this business, take you and your passion out of it. What are they really investing in? Do you have something that has an established market, has established sales, or are they really just investing in an idea?
Yeah, I think that's important. And on the flip side of that, are investors going to ask similar questions?
Most definitely. Most definitely. So the investors are going to be asking, firstly, and from all of them that I've spoken to, there's probably hundreds upon hundreds of investors that I've spoken to in my own business, but also for my clients as well. But what they're really looking for is they're looking to invest in the actual person rather than the actual business. So if there's someone, if they think that you can you can deliver results and you're going to work tirelessly to go and do that and you're passionate about it, then that's the first thing that really investors look for. The second thing is, what's going to be my return on investment? And lastly, how am I going to get my money out of this business? Is it going to list on the stock exchange? Is it going to be sold? Are they going to buy my shares back? Or am I going to live on dividends forever? That's the other last thing that they're thinking about.
Yeah, okay. So you've obviously, when helping these businesses grow that you've helped, over the past few years, building those structures and processes, sales processes are all important. But how important has team building been? So let's just say there's a business that's got 10 employees. How important is getting that structure between the employees tight?
Yeah, it is really important and often overlooked. Okay. Because a lot of the business owners that I speak to are just, the employee gets paid and that should be enough, but it's not enough. In this day and age, the average length of time that an employee stays with an employer is 18 months. So you've got two sides of the coin about the way that people look at that. The first side of people look at it to say, well, if they're only going to be with me for 18 months, I'm not going to put any time and effort into them. The other side of the coin is people who think, well, if they're going to be here for 18 months, I need to get the maximum out of them that I can in that period of time. So team building, the training the employees, coaching them, and also giving them processes and systems to follow to perform at the maximum capacity, I would say critically important to the sort of people quadrant in growing and scaling a business.
And for those people that do have quite a number of staff, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? Should they be sitting down with employees once a week asking how they're doing? Should they be doing field trips or?
Cool. Great. I think, what I tell business owners is it all comes down to what's your culture and what's the culture of your business. So, one person might be turning over, say, I don't know, $10 million a year. The first Friday of every month, they take them bowling and do hot dogs and a few beers, right? So they might do that. Then you've got the other flip side. In my last business, I scaled that from nothing, from 3 founding members to 160 employees and $150 million in revenue. And in having really quality staff was a big, big problem for us. We were always struggling to find good staff. So we had to go to the complete opposite end. And I was giving away like cars, brand new cars to employees. I was giving away overseas trips, TVs, all of that sort of stuff as reward and recognition for people for staying longer and for doing a great job. So I think you've got 2 parts to it. Really, the first step, there's no need to blow it up and give away cars. But I think the first step is just having morning meetings for 10 or 15 minutes each day to foster that communication and connection with you as the business owner.
Yeah, I think I keep in touch quite a bit with Grant Cardone over in the US. And I think it's really important what he does. Every morning they do a 15-minute sales meeting. Get everyone around. Everyone's done their training before they come to work. But something important that he says, and I want to know your opinion on this, he fires very quickly. He says he's always looking for someone to get rid of.
Yep. And I think there's a balance to it. Okay. What he's really saying, and this is sort of the mantra I live by as well, is that if there's warning flags in your head that this individual or this particular person isn't going to work out, then sure, delve into that and make sure that that's not going to happen or that is going to happen and confirm what that's happening. But don't delay the decision just because it's going to be uncomfortable. And a lot of that stuff happens with business owners. I'm played off as the bad guy when I go into these businesses. I have to fire some people and I don't enjoy doing it. But I do it because the business owner doesn't want to, because they've already got too much of an emotional connection with them. But really, it's dragging down their business. One client that I was working with years ago had a really, really bad team member there, and it was costing him like probably $200,000 a year in customer complaints and all of this stuff. And it got to the point where it just couldn't be tolerated anymore. And I had to go in and say, okay, look, enough's enough. Thanks very much, but you've got to move on now. And so I think I definitely signed to or subscribe to that agenda saying don't hold on to people for too long, get rid of them if they're not going to work out. but also on the other side as well, you've got to give them the tools and the training and the motivation and encouragement so that they have a full proper chance to succeed in your organization.
Yeah, and I think the way Grant puts it is he says that he puts so much force into his business that if something is not working, there has to be someone with the intention to actually be pulling back. And I think, as you mentioned, it's important to find those people and either give them the proper training or show them where the door is.
Yeah, that's right. And I've spoken to a couple of Grant staff as well, and you can tell that they go above and beyond with training and that their employees actually care. You can tell that all of that hard work is paying off. Definitely.
It's quite a good culture, but yeah. So, and I want to talk about, even, you just mentioned before you went from 3 founding members to over 160 staff. Was that a very quick process? And I want to understand, has business in the past 16 years for you changed when you started? Was business a very slow game, and over the years with technology, has it gotten faster? How did that?
Oh man, there's so many ways that I can answer this question. So back when I started my business, my first business in 2003, the internet wasn't too crazy. So I used to advertise in the newspaper, and that was how we would get leads. People would literally go to the newspaper and then ring us up. So then the internet sort of changed. Google came in. There was a huge increase off the back of that. But in about 2012, we sort of hit this plateau where I was sitting there. It was about between $2 and $4 million, I think it was. And we just couldn't break through it because I was trying to do all of the work myself. And then I sat down one day and I thought, rather than trying to do everything myself, let's go completely against the grain and see what happens. And I'm going to do nothing, and I'm going to get all my staff to do it. And I'm going to work on systems and processes and see what happens. And almost overnight, everything changed. The business started growing. People started fixing problems. They started creating their own processes. And then I was able to just scale up the marketing side of things. And once we got a fat stream of new sales coming through, I'd already built a process that could handle, additional volume. And I just needed to add more people into that. So business has changed over the years. The internet has been crazy with that. I had when we started, I had salespeople out on the road, driving out and sitting in people's homes to do consultations. Okay. Then I changed that and brought a team completely internally to close everything over the phone and build a massive call center. So it definitely has changed. I think the internet has changed a lot of things in that period of time.
Yeah, and I mean, before we started this podcast, we were having a chat. You're producing a lot of content now, especially for your business. Yeah. And we talked about the strategy behind that is for, to get engagement and then retarget those people later on. Are you finding, obviously there's 2.2 billion people on Facebook, but are you finding that your target market, when you do advertising, is on Facebook, or do they hang out more on LinkedIn? What's that like?
It's funny. I think people are everywhere. Yeah. Facebook just keeps surprising me every day with the people that are on Facebook. And it really is I've got, I know a guy who's got, his net worth is close to $1 billion. And he's on Facebook and he gets targeted with ads. And so I think the stats are 60 or 80% or something of people are on Facebook. So that's really the hot place. LinkedIn works well, I think, but in terms of the return on investment, I still think Facebook's the best bang for buck at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And for your business especially, I noticed you're using ClickFunnels too. What's your lead gen process? Is it straight to a ClickFunnels to book a call? Is it to purchase something online, have a chat with your team? What's that like for you?
Yeah, so it's funny because the market now is that you have to give a ton of value up front before anyone will know, like, and trust you, right? And that's good for me because I'm all about giving anyway. This is going to go to who knows who's going to listen to this. So this is going to get thrown back in my face. I can guarantee it. But I would literally do this job for free if it didn't take me away from spending time with my kids. That's the only reason why I charge it, because it takes time away from my family. So in terms of my process, I try and give as much value up front to people, either through videos, through resources that they can download, checklists, plans. And so when they're ready, it's up to them to reach out to say, hey, let's book in a call and see if Gav can give me some free advice to move forward. And then the whole goal after that is for me to work out whether that person's a good fit or not. And if they are, then we work out if we're going to work together one-on-one or in my group program. That's really how the sales process works. It's really not pushy. It's really up to the business owner to reach out and say, hey, this is the type of person that I want to help me. That's the way that we approach everything.
And for any business that you guys work with or will work with in the future, should every business be using software like ClickFunnels or be on Shopify, or is there only a certain type of business that should be using online platforms?
Look, automation is a really big way to free up time, and I'm really big on that. There's people don't spend enough time automating their business. What I find is that the people who are just starting out think, I'm going to save all this time, so I'm going to spend all this time on automation. And they focus on the wrong things. They should really be focusing on getting their first sales. Then once they start getting their first sales, they almost forget about automation and just keep doing everything themselves together. So on that point of view, like the best tool that I'm using right now, the two best tools that I'm using is Loom for screen recording. And how I use that is I just record the screen, talk about whatever the process is or whatever, and then I can hand that recording off to an employee who can watch it over and over and over again as training. The second piece of cool tech that I'm using at the moment is Rev. And so as I'm driving in between appointments or wherever, I'm actually recording notes or recording checklists or resources or blogs that I need to do. And I just upload it to Rev, and I think it's like $1 a minute to transcribe all of that into words. So by the time I'm back from my appointment, I've already got the notes in my inbox of exactly what happened.
That's it's interesting that you mentioned Loom as well, because one thing that especially for YE that we've been doing recently is for our events is our Ascension Models. So I'm not sure if you guys have looked into this, but you have the Done By You, which is an online university or course. You have the Done With You, which is the online university plus a few consultation calls, and then Done For You, which is what you talk about, how you go in there and you fire people for the business owner. Is that something you guys have looked into, to having just an online university where for a low cost the business can come to you and they just get access to a general content platform? Or
I think the thing that I found with those Ascension models is that they take a long time to build out, and the majority of the value is in the implementation. So what I find is that people sign up to this stuff, and if they don't go and do the work and implement the stuff, then there's really no value in it for them. So when I'm working with a lot of business owners who they complain to me a lot that time is not is at a premium, them going in and logging into some sort of online course and sitting there and watching it for 4 hours of a night time, it's not really something they're interested in doing. They really want the done with you or the done for you, so that I can hold their hand, customize that to their business. That's really where my sort of niche is.
Interesting. I was looking through one of your funnels before, and I know every business owner is going to go this. You talked about pulling people out of stress and anxiety. I really want to touch on that because it's such a big, topic in business. Is it impossible to ever get away from stress and anxiety in business?
In business, let me think about that. What I find is that we get stressed and we get anxious about situations that we've never been in before and we don't know what to do. So that's just me. That's what I found in working with my clients. And when you've got someone who you can contact and say, hey, I'm in this situation, what do I do? The stress and anxiety about that particular topic or event is then removed. So like, for instance, my son years and years and years ago when he was really young used to get really stressed about us brushing his teeth, right? But now he's done it so many times that it's just a whatever type of thing to do. So I feel like that stress and anxiety is when we're approaching something new and we don't know what to do. That's when our stress and anxiety is at its highest point.
Okay, so it's almost like it's just, I wouldn't say a part of the process, but it's something that, again, it's a character builder.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it's just something that is gonna, in the long run, actually help you, from what you've mentioned.
I think so. And then you can get to a point where your business won't stress you as much as what it does now. And the roller coaster of business, the ups and downs are less because you're not living week to week. And that's what I think a lot of seven-figure business owners are doing. They're really on a knife's edge because they haven't busted through yet. They can't absorb the peaks and troughs as well as what a business that's turning over $10 million a year can.
Okay, so what's your goal for any business that you come and work with after you've gone through the initial process of setting up the structures, the frameworks, to then going into growing it? What's the long-term goal? Is it for the business owner to be able to just call up their CEO or manager every day, ask them 3-4 questions, and they're done for the day? Or what's that?
Yeah, pretty much. So what each case is different, and it really just depends on what the owner wants to do. And there's really two sides to it. The first one is the business owner wants to get out of their current business. So they want to scale it up so that they can sell it and go and do something else. Because as entrepreneurs and business owners, we don't want to be bogged down for too long. So there's that side. Then the other flip side of it is that they would get bored if they weren't working or weren't doing something else. So they just want to have the freedom to work when they want. So that might just be, 3 days a week that they're in the office, or it might be that they've just got everything running on autopilot so that they can leave at midday if they want to, or just pop in an hour each day. But my goal effectively is to get the business to consistent where revenue is predictable. Dividends are predictable to the business owner rather than the business owner having to put more money in all of the time, and to scale it up to a level where the business owner is making as much money as they want to make, and they're using their business as a vehicle to deliver that income to them personally. That's my goal.
Yeah, no, that's a really good goal to have. Now, is there a point at which you say, okay, we've worked with you guys, we're done, or does that really depend on how much money or what size the person wants to get the business to?
Yeah, once we achieve the goal of where the business owner wants to go, then normally it's just like, yep, okay, that's it, we're done. There's always things that will come up in business, whether you're at 7 figures, 8 figures, 6 figures, whatever. So there's always things that will come up. So there's a lot of business owners that I've worked with that have reached their goal, but still want me to hang around just as a sounding board in case something comes up, and we have different models for that. And then there's other people that just have a specific problem. So they might just have an issue with the sales process and they want to get that fixed as quickly as possible. And we'll just spend a month or two getting that done. And then that's it. See you later. We'll shake hands and move on to the next project.
Okay. You've made it sound very easy to go from 7 to 8 figures. Now I understand that's not. Working with you would probably make that process a lot easier.
Yes, I would say so.
But for anyone actually starting business, what's the hardest part? Is it the 0 to 100, 100 to a mil to 10 mil, or is it all the same?
Man, it's all hard.
Yeah.
It's all hard. Like, you would know that. And I'm not, I make it sound easy, but it's not easy. It's really not. Being in business is one of the hardest things that you'll ever go through in life, because it's lonely if you don't have anyone that's got your back. The ups and downs, things can change like that. Like, I was speaking to a business owner on Tuesday last week, one of my clients. Everything was great. We're smashing it out of the park. Literally the next morning he rang me and he's like, that's it. I'm in the depths of despair, depression. The world's gonna end. So I think the hardest part of business is that roller coaster from the peaks down to the troughs. Yeah. The people that are listening to this, I would say the hardest part is probably going to be the first 12 months in the expectations versus reality, because when you start, motivation is high. You're going along and you hit a small roadblock, and then that's it. That just delves you right down to the bottom, where you just hit this danger zone where you want to give up in your business and in your ventures. And motivation never really gets back to that first point where it was at the start. So I suppose the advice is that I keep giving to everyone is just to keep going, because I find that when you get to that point when you want to give up, you're only like seconds away from a breakthrough. So every time I feel like that or my clients feel like that, I just tell them keep going because something awesome is just about to happen. And 9 times out of 10, it does.
And listen, for those listening, that sounds so cliche, but it is so true. Like, it could not be further, like, closer to the truth. I mean, every time you feel like quitting, understand that
just keep going.
Right around the corner. So what's the one thing that you've seen in all businesses? The one recurring theme, it could be a failure, it could be a success that anyone listening right now can implement straight away. The one thing that will work.
The one thing that I know that will work in the business is that no matter what you do, if you don't have clients or if you don't have a way to generate new business or new customers into your business or new cash flow, even if you don't have that, then you don't have a business. So we get distracted all these times on this fancy stuff. Like I was speaking to a client months ago, and they spent all of this money and invested all of this cash into making their office look all pretty, and that doesn't get you any clients. So after that, they said, "Oh, I've got no money left now to spend on ads." Well, why? So that's my piece of advice. My first piece of advice is make sure that you've got a process in place that's going to get you clients. The secondly is that if you've got people there that owe you money, go and collect it from them. Even though it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation, go and collect it from them.
And second last question, just on that. Any money that someone makes in a business, especially in the starting stage, should they basically, I wouldn't say run themselves broke, but reinvest absolutely every single cent? Or is that a dangerous thing to do?
Yeah, 100%. No, 100%. I would reinvest as much of that as I possibly can back into the business. And, going back before we were talking about with people starting, you've got to expect that in the first at least 2 years, you're not really going to see a huge amount of money come back from your business. And if you can't do that, then put something in place so that you can still spend time on your business, but that you're not going broke. So start it off as a side hustle and just test it and see if it's going to work or not first, if you can get customers, and then use that money and put it back into ads so that you're not sort of growing broke all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Now, a year is a very long time, but I want to ask, what are your goals for yourself personally and your business over the next 12 months?
So my personal goals, I have a book that I'm launching definitely in the next 12 months. So that's really my number one priority personally. Okay. In the business, I want to, over the next 12 months, I want to help 10,000 people. That's what I want to do. Whether that's through free content, whether that's through them paying me money, I don't really care about that. I want to help 10,000 people overcome the issues and the struggles and the stress that they're having inside of their business. Because that's, to me, that's what it's all about.
Just in Australia?
So what are we in now? So in 12 months time, I'll be overseas. All my products and services and everything will be overseas. I would have scaled and expanded enough by then.
That's a very, very, very achievable goal.
Hell yeah.
So
hell yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Gavin.
No problem.
Your knowledge is quite insane. So for people listening, where can they actually find more about you, your business, what you do, social media?
Yeah, cool. So head over to the Foundry Group Facebook page. Just type in the Foundry Group and you'll see my head on there. So it's the guy talking to the camera all the time. You can hit up foundrygroup.net, the webpage, for more information about what we do. And if you want to learn more about me, just Google my name, Gavin Symes, and you'll see everything you need to know about me.
Perfect. And if you want to know how you can double your profits within the next 90 days, they can have a 30-minute chat with you on your website as well.
Hell yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gavin.
Thanks, Reese.